Living well means making informed choices about how we spend our energy. And today we're going to talk about something that touches many of us as we reach our 70s and beyond. It's about travel, about adventure, and about understanding when the journeys we once loved might be asking more of us than we can comfortably give. For decades, traveling meant freedom. It meant exploring new places, creating memories, and breaking free from routine. But somewhere around the age of 70, something shifts. What once felt exciting can start to feel exhausting. What used to be an adventure can become a source of stress. And while this doesn't mean we should stop exploring the world, it does mean we need to be honest with ourselves about what our bodies and minds are telling us. Let me share something with you. A woman named Margaret spent her entire retirement dreaming of a 3-week tour through Europe. She'd saved for years, planned every detail, and finally, at 72, she boarded that plane to London. But within the first week, everything started to unravel. Her knees, which had given her occasional trouble at home, began to ache constantly from all the walking. The unfamiliar beds left her tossing and turning each night. By the time she reached Paris, she was so exhausted she could barely enjoy the Eiffel Tower. She came home needing another month just to recover, and the trip she'd dreamed about for so long left her feeling drained rather than energized. Margaret's story isn't unique. It's happening to countless people who reach their 70s and discover that long-distance travel has become more challenging than they expected. And there are very real, very specific reasons why this happens. Understanding these reasons isn't about limiting ourselves or giving up on life's pleasures. It's about making smarter choices that actually enhance our well-being rather than diminish it. The first challenge we face is purely physical. After 70, our bodies simply don't respond to stress the way they used to. Think about what happens during a long trip. You're sitting for extended periods on planes, trains, or in cars. Your joints, which may already have some arthritis, are compressed and immobile. Your circulation slows down, your muscles tighten. And unlike when we were younger, when we could bounce back from this kind of strain in a day or two, recovery now takes much longer. Consider what happens to your legs during a long flight. Blood pools in your lower extremities, your ankles might swell. There's a real risk of blood clots forming, something called deep vein thrombosis, which becomes more common as we age. Even after you land and start moving around, it can take days for that swelling to go down and for normal circulation to resume. Meanwhile, you're trying to enjoy your vacation while dealing with discomfort and fatigue. Then there are the joints themselves. Every time you lift a suitcase, climb stairs in an old hotel, or walk cobblestone streets, you're asking your knees, hips, and back to perform under conditions they're no longer built for. The cartilage that once cushioned your joints has worn thin. The muscles that supported them have weakened. What might have been a minor inconvenience at 50 becomes genuine pain at 75. And that pain doesn't just disappear when you get home. It lingers, sometimes for weeks, affecting your ability to do the things you normally enjoy. A man named Robert learned this the hard way. He and his wife took a 2-week cruise to Alaska when he was 73. The ship was beautiful, the scenery spectacular, but the constant walking between activities, the stairs to navigate, and the shore excursions left him in agony. His lower back seized up halfway through the trip. He spent the rest of the cruise in his cabin, missing the glaciers and wildlife he'd traveled so far to see. Months later, he was still attending physical therapy sessions, trying to undo the damage from those 2 weeks. But physical stress is only part of the picture. Let's talk about sleep, because this is where things get really complicated. Sleep is already challenging for many of us as we age. Our sleep becomes lighter, more fragmented, more easily disturbed. At home, we've adapted. We know our bed, our pillows, our environment. We've developed routines that help us get the rest we need, even if it's not perfect. Travel destroys all of that. Suddenly you're in a strange bed that's too soft or too hard. The pillows are wrong. The room might be noisy or have light streaming in at odd hours. If you've crossed time zones, your body clock is completely confused, trying to figure out when it should be awake and when it should sleep. And for older adults, jet lag doesn't resolve in a day or two like it might for younger people. It can take weeks for your circadian rhythm to fully adjust. The consequences of disrupted sleep go far beyond just feeling tired. Sleep is when your body repairs itself, when your immune system strengthens, when your brain processes and consolidates memories. When you're not sleeping well, everything else starts to break down. Your balance becomes unsteady, increasing your risk of falls. Your mood deteriorates, making you irritable and anxious. Your blood sugar regulation gets thrown off, which is particularly dangerous if you have diabetes. Your blood pressure can spike. Even your digestion suffers. A woman named Patricia experienced this firsthand during a visit to see her daughter in Australia. The 16-hour time difference was devastating. For the entire 2-week visit, she felt like she was living in a fog. She couldn't focus on conversations. She felt dizzy and disoriented. Simple tasks became overwhelming. When she finally returned home, it took nearly a month before her sleep normalized, and during that time, her blood pressure readings were so erratic her doctor had to adjust her medications. The trip to see her daughter, meant to be a joyful reunion, ended up compromising her health for months. Now, let's address something that worries many of us but doesn't always get talked about openly. When we travel, especially to crowded places like airports, train stations, or popular tourist destinations, we're exposing ourselves to countless germs and pathogens. For younger people with robust immune systems, this usually isn't a problem. But after 70, our immune function has declined significantly. Our bodies are simply less capable of fighting off infections. Think about the environment you're in when you travel. You're touching surfaces that thousands of other people have touched. You're breathing recirculated air on planes. You're eating food prepared in unfamiliar kitchens. You're in close quarters with people from all over the world, each carrying their own microbes. Even a common cold, which might be a minor annoyance for someone younger, can develop into bronchitis or pneumonia for an older adult. A man named Henry took a cruise with his wife when he was 76. Within 3 days of boarding, he developed a respiratory infection. The ship's medical facility was limited, and while they treated him as best they could, the infection worsened. By the time they reached the next port, he needed to be hospitalized. He spent a week in a foreign hospital, away from his regular doctors, dealing with a healthcare system he didn't understand and staff who barely spoke English. The infection eventually cleared, but the stress of that experience, the fear and confusion, left emotional scars that took even longer to heal than the physical illness. And it's not just infections we need to worry about. Travel often means eating differently at different times. Sometimes foods our digestive systems aren't used to. For older adults, whose digestive systems are already more sensitive, this can lead to problems ranging from uncomfortable bloating and constipation to more serious issues requiring medical attention. When you're far from home, dealing with digestive distress adds another layer of misery to an already challenging situation. Here's something else that doesn't get enough attention. Our daily routines, the regular patterns we follow at home, aren't just habits. They're actually crucial for maintaining our health, especially as we age. We eat meals at consistent times, which helps regulate our blood sugar and digestion. We take our medications on schedule, which keeps our chronic conditions under control. We exercise or move in predictable ways, which maintains our strength and flexibility. We sleep and wake at regular hours, which supports our circadian rhythm. Travel obliterates these routines. You might skip breakfast because the hotel timing doesn't match your usual schedule. You might forget an afternoon medication because you're caught up in sightseeing. Your regular morning walk gets replaced by sitting in a tour bus. The structure that keeps you healthy at home simply doesn't exist when you're traveling, and the consequences accumulate quickly. A woman named Dorothy, who was 74, went on a 2-week trip to visit national parks out west. At home, she was meticulous about her health routines. She took her heart medication with breakfast every morning, walked for 30 minutes after lunch, and ate dinner at 6 o'clock. On the road, everything fell apart. Breakfast times were unpredictable, so sometimes she took her medication on an empty stomach, which made her nauseous. Other times she forgot it entirely in the rush to get to the next destination. Her regular walks didn't happen because they were always in the car driving to the next park. She ate at strange hours, whatever was available, and her digestion rebelled. By the time she got home, her blood pressure was dangerously elevated, and it took weeks of careful attention to get everything back on track. The disruption of routine isn't just physical, though. It's deeply emotional, too. Many of us find comfort and security in the familiar rhythms of our days. When those rhythms are disrupted, we can feel unmoored, anxious, and stressed in ways that aren't immediately obvious but that definitely take a toll on our well-being. This brings us to perhaps the most overlooked aspect of travel challenges for older adults, the emotional and psychological strain. When we're younger, being away from home for extended periods might feel liberating. But as we age, especially if we've lost a spouse or live alone, being far from familiar surroundings and support systems can trigger profound feelings of loneliness and anxiety. Home isn't just where we sleep, it's where we feel safe, where we know how everything works, where our friends and community are, where help is readily available if we need it. When we travel, especially on long trips, we lose all of that security. We're in places where we don't know anyone, where we might not even speak the language, where simple tasks become complicated and stressful. A man named Frank traveled to visit his son in California, a trip that required flying across the country. Frank was 78 and had been widowed 3 years earlier. At home, he had a close circle of friends, a regular coffee group, weekly card games, and neighbors who checked on him. In California, despite being with his son's family, he felt isolated. His son and daughter-in-law worked during the day. The grandchildren were busy with school and activities. Frank spent hours alone in their guest room, feeling disconnected and melancholy. The loneliness was so acute that he cut his visit short, much to his son's disappointment, because he desperately needed to get back to his own community and routine. This emotional strain doesn't always manifest as obvious sadness. Sometimes it shows up as irritability, as difficulty concentrating, as a vague sense of unease that makes it impossible to enjoy what should be pleasant experiences. And for older adults who may already be dealing with age-related changes in mood or early cognitive decline, the stress of travel can exacerbate these issues significantly. There's also the anxiety that comes from feeling vulnerable in unfamiliar places, worrying about falling in a strange bathroom, stressing about navigating public transportation, feeling embarrassed about not understanding local customs. These constant low-level anxieties wear us down mentally and emotionally, leaving us exhausted in a way that has nothing to do with physical exertion. Now, imagine something goes wrong while you're traveling. You have a medical emergency, or your luggage gets lost, or there's a transportation problem. At home, you know exactly who to call and what to do. You have your doctors, your pharmacy, your support system. Away from home, especially if you're far away, handling any kind of emergency becomes exponentially more difficult and stressful. Medical emergencies are particularly frightening. If you have a health crisis while traveling, you're at the mercy of whatever medical facilities happen to be nearby. You don't know the doctors. They don't know your medical history. They might not have access to your records. If you're in a foreign country, there might be language barriers that make it difficult to communicate symptoms or understand treatment plans. And the quality of care can vary dramatically from what you're used to at home. A woman named Evelyn experienced this during a trip to Mexico. She was 71 and had been managing her heart condition successfully for years with her cardiologist back home. During the trip, she developed chest pain. The local hospital did what they could, but they didn't have her complete medical history, didn't know her specific medication regimen, and the cardiologist on call wasn't familiar with her case. The language barrier made everything more complicated and frightening. Eventually, she was stable enough to fly home, where her own doctor could properly assess and treat her. But those hours in a foreign emergency room, frightened and confused, were traumatic. Even non-medical emergencies become more challenging with age. If your flight gets cancelled and you need to rebook, navigate a crowded airport, and find accommodation, that's stressful at any age, but particularly overwhelming when you're older, tired, and dealing with the physical limitations that come with age. You can't stand in long lines as easily. You can't rush between gates. You might have trouble hearing announcements or reading small print on signs. What might be a manageable inconvenience for a younger traveller can become a genuine crisis for someone in their 70s or 80s. So what does all of this mean? Does it mean we should never travel after 70? Absolutely not. But it does mean we need to be much more thoughtful and strategic about how we travel. It means recognizing that the 3-week international adventure might not serve us as well as shorter, more manageable trips closer to home. It means understanding that maintaining our health and well-being should take priority over checking items off a bucket list. Consider the alternative approach. Instead of one exhausting 2-week trip, what if you took 4 long weekends spread throughout the year? You could drive to places within a few hours of home, sleep in your own bed most nights, and return before you're completely drained. You'd still have new experiences, still break up your routine in positive ways, but without the physical and emotional toll of extended travel. Think about destinations that accommodate your needs rather than challenge them. Places with easy accessibility, comfortable accommodations, and proximity to good medical care if needed. Places where you can maintain at least some of your daily routine, where you can still take your morning walk or eat meals at your usual times. Places where you speak the language and understand the culture. And when you do travel, prepare thoroughly. Bring more medication than you think you'll need. Have copies of your medical records and a list of your current medications. Research medical facilities at your destination. Make sure someone at home knows your itinerary and can be contacted in an emergency. Choose accommodations known for comfort rather than adventure. Pack light enough that you're not straining yourself with heavy luggage. Most importantly, listen to your body. If you're exhausted, rest. If something hurts, stop. If you're not enjoying yourself, it's okay to change plans or even go home early. There's no shame in recognizing your limits. In fact, there's wisdom in it. The goal of travel, after all, is to enhance your life, to bring joy and enrichment and new experiences. If a trip is leaving you depleted, sick, stressed, or unhappy, then it's not serving that goal, no matter how spectacular the destination or how much you spent on it. Better to have modest, comfortable, rejuvenating experiences than ambitious trips that compromise your health and well-being for months afterward. Think about quality over quantity. A weekend at a comfortable inn 2 hours from home, where you can sleep well, eat familiar foods, and return refreshed, is worth far more than a bucket list trip that leaves you exhausted and ill. A visit with friends or family that lets you maintain your routines while still enjoying their company is more valuable than a distant vacation that isolates you from your support system. As we age, wisdom means understanding what truly nourishes us versus what depletes us, even if it looks good on paper. It means having the courage to make choices that others might not understand, but that serve our actual needs. It means redefining adventure not as how far we can push ourselves, but as how well we can care for ourselves while still engaging with life. So if you're in your 70s or beyond and feeling the pull to travel, ask yourself some honest questions first. How will this trip affect my sleep? Can I maintain my medication schedule and dietary needs? What's my plan if something goes wrong? How long will it take me to recover afterward? And most importantly, will this trip actually add to my life? Or will it take more than it gives? Your answers to these questions should guide your decisions. And if those answers lead you to choose shorter trips, closer destinations, or even more time at home with occasional day trips, that's not settling. That's wisdom. That's self-care. That's honoring the body and mind that have carried you through 70 or more years of life. Remember that staying healthy and vital in your later years isn't about proving you can still do everything you did at 50. It's about making choices that preserve your energy, protect your health, and allow you to enjoy each day fully. If travel no longer serves that goal, you have every right to adjust your approach. And if you find that shorter, simpler trips bring you more genuine joy than ambitious adventures, then that's exactly what you should choose. Your well-being matters more than anyone else's expectations. Your comfort matters more than impressive travel stories. Your health matters more than bucket lists. This is your life. Your body, your choice. Make decisions that honor where you are right now, not where you were decades ago or where someone else thinks you should be. So, here's what I'd like you to do. Take some time this week to really think about your travel plans and habits. If you have a big trip coming up, review it honestly. Does it align with your current physical and emotional needs? If you're feeling pressure to travel from family or friends, have an honest conversation about your concerns. If you've been pushing yourself to keep up with travel habits that no longer serve you, give yourself permission to stop. And if you know someone in their 70s or older who's struggling with these issues, share this information with them. Sometimes we need permission to acknowledge what we're experiencing and validation that it's okay to make different choices. Be that source of support and understanding for the older adults in your life. Most importantly, start exploring travel options that actually work for your current stage of life. Research nearby destinations. Look into comfortable, accessible accommodations. Plan shorter trips with plenty of rest built in. Consider traveling with someone who understands your needs and can provide support if necessary. Make your health and comfort the priority, and let everything else flow from that foundation. Traveling after 70 can still be wonderful, enriching, and joyful. It just needs to look different than it did before. And that's not only okay, it's exactly as it should be. So take care of yourself, honor your limits, and choose adventures that truly enhance your life. You've earned the right to travel on your own terms, in ways that serve your well-being rather than compromise it. Start making those wise choices today, and enjoy the years ahead with the vitality and peace you deserve.